Have you figured out your niche? Are you helping adding value to other people's lives? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to Munira's Musings with your host, co-author of Conversations with Top Real Estate Investors Volume 3, Munira Zahabi.
So greetings from Chicago. This is Munira, your host for Munira's Musings. And of course, I'm in the dark, so there you go. I'm having a little lighting issue since it's turning dark earlier. But I am your host for Munira's Musings, and I want to introduce Cheryl Harris Sutton, who is the president of Harris Sutton Enterprises. And she is committed to helping growth-minded individuals transform their life by expanding their thinking and boosting their confidence. We want to hear more from Cheryl. So Cheryl, how are you? Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, Munira. I am great. And thank you so much for inviting me.
You are welcome. It's been a minute before we connected and did this, but we are honored and humbled to have you on my show.
Same here.
So, but before we dive in and we want to know what you are doing, let me tell you a little bit about who I am and what Munira's Musing is about. I'm Munira Zahabi. I am the niche navigator, and I support coaches and business entrepreneurs because when they are still looking for what they want to do, it's very important that you have a niche, and we want to help everybody in life, and that's as coaches and as business entrepreneurs, we want to solve a problem. But if we are not sure about what problem we want to solve, we can't help everybody. We have to find a niche. And I am the person that you come to because I have a compass and I give you the helm of the ship, and then you navigate to your niche. The show Munira's Musings came about when I found one person doing a very good thing with her niche, and she didn't believe in it. A niche is something that you have to believe in it wholeheartedly. It has to come from mindset, the 6 inches between our ears. And she didn't know if she was doing it right. She didn't know if she was just very flustered. So I told her, I'm going to interview you. I wanted to do a Facebook Live. Didn't want to do it alone. So I did a Facebook Live with her, and Munira's Musings came into being because I met a lot of people who have found their niche or are still looking for their niche. But when they come here, they become very clear. Mm-hmm. So, it's one way to promote them, expose them, and promote people like you, Cheryl, and help other people understand, one, that it's very important to find their niche, and two, there are building blocks that happen, but that's not the end of the world. So don't give. Every business has had its growing pains. So Cheryl, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, as you said, I am the president of Harris Sutton Enterprises, which actually is a newly formed company. We're just about a year old now. And I decided to form Harris Sutton Enterprises because as I'm moving closer and closer to that point of retirement, I really started to evaluate my own life and just trying to figure out, have I really done what it was I believe I was called to do, and have I really left the legacy that I desire? And so after giving some thought to that, I decided that there is really more in me that I hadn't yet given, and I wanted to find a way to do that. And so again, I decided, Harris Sutton Enterprises would be the way for me to do that. So I currently do work in the corporate environment. I've been working corporately for a little over 30 years. My career has been in the field of healthcare administration. So I've worked with medical, I've worked with behavioral, and I've also worked in the oral health industry. And in each of those industries, I really found myself drawn to helping people to become a better version of themselves, whether that was through obtaining the benefits they need, some type of education they need, or helping them to develop some type of personal or professional skill. And so as I really thought about the direction that I'd like to go, that personal development, personal growth avenue was the avenue that I selected for that next chapter in my life.
That's awesome. So why did you pick this niche?
Well, I looked back, as I said, I was evaluating my life, and I've done quite a bit of writing and putting my thoughts down. And I found that I was always drawn to training. And, truthfully, even before I felt like I was drawn to that, I was constantly being selected to train. So at one point in my career, I was working for a company that had more than 7,000 employees. And the company wanted to start a company university. And so they announced that they would be selecting 25 staff members to participate as facilitators and train the trainers in this program. And next thing I knew, I was getting a letter inviting me to be one of those 25 out of 7,000 people. And at that time, I really hadn't given a lot of thought to training, but that experience really opened my eyes, it opened my doors, and it allowed me to see that that actually is an avenue that I enjoy. I enjoyed, getting before people and finding out what the concerns or problems or challenges they were having, and then finding ways to help them to solve those problems. And so I have just leaned towards personal development and growth. And it's also something that I am drawn to for myself. I am a lifelong learner. I enjoy learning. I do believe in personal development. And so I've always taken time to invest in myself. And so it just seemed like a natural fit for me.
You remind me of myself because I tell people I am a student for life of life.
Yes.
So tell me, I understand, and this is very awesome because then you picked to train a lot of people, 7,000 people, almost 7 because now 25 of you have been picked to train.
Right.
So you've transitioned in life. One of my hashtags is reinvent yourself.
Yes.
How many times in your 30-year corporate career have you had to reinvent yourself?
I think I've lost count at this point. I could tell you, though, it's been continuous. So in my professional career, I've worked for 3 different organizations. I typically am a person that once I get there, I kind of stay with the organization. So like I said, only 3 companies in my my 30 plus years career. But I have found that even when I stay in an organization, one of the things that helps to maintain my level of interest in that organization, helps me to be promotable, helps me to stay engaged in the organization and with my coworkers, really is to constantly be open to new opportunities, being open to learning new things, and as you said, being open to restructuring, reorganizing, continuing to grow myself. So just keeping an open mind constantly.
I have another question. So reinventing is like evolving, right, for the better.
Mm-hmm.
How many times in the 3 organizations that you've done, and you've held many positions within that each organizations, how many times did you think that, this is a skill I'm never going to use again, or this is a skill that I'm going to use over and over again? Has that ever happened?
Yeah, well, my personal philosophy, in fact, it's a philosophy that I happen to share with my daughter. I tell her this, I remind her of this all the time. I personally don't believe that anything we do ever goes to waste. And because of that, I have, even when there have been, I've had to reinvent myself in a way that maybe I wasn't too excited to do, or had to learn something that didn't appear to be exciting to me, but it was more of a mandate versus something that I was voluntarily electing to do. I also go into it with the belief and the understanding that it will be a skill that I'll find necessary at some point in my life's journey. So that's been my philosophy is everything, nothing goes to waste. You use everything. Some things you find you use more immediately. Some things it's taking years to see, that manifest and actually have to use a skill that I learned many, many years ago. But I do know that anything that I'm learning, I will have a need for it at some point during my lifetime.
So that's a good wisdom, right? And it's an awesome wisdom. But I'm going to go back when you were young.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have this wisdom, or did it come to you as you were evolving and,
Definitely, as I was evolving. I wish I knew when I was much, much younger what I know now. So I would definitely have to say that's something I learned probably more in the early part of my career. But, as a youngster growing up, absolutely did not have that as a philosophy. And so because I didn't, I, oftentimes would fight against trying to learn additional things. So, if it wasn't something I really wanted to learn, I would, avoid it. But if it was something that I found of interest, then I would grab a hold of it. And so as I matured, I learned that, sometimes you have to embrace those things that are not necessarily what you might want to do, but they're what you need to do. And that really, if you want to have an open door for opportunities, you must reinvent yourself. And the only way that I've seen that to happen successfully is when you allow yourself to grow and to develop and to learn.
So to open your mind and change the mindset of I don't want to learn it to I want to learn this and it's going to come in handy.
Yes, absolutely.
You remind me because our parents and grandparents, I come from East Africa. So when people had those plastic spoons and, that were nice, right? They would save it. Here we are becoming a wasteful society where we throw away stuff. There, even today, the oldies, and I call them with love, the oldies, they save things. You take them Ziploc bags.
Right.
So when I go back home, when I have done that twice or three times, I've taken Ziploc bags for them because they think they get them there, but they're expensive. But when I give them to them readily, they are like, oh, I'm going to save it. They'll wash it, they'll keep it. When we came from America, you use the same mentality until now you grow in this society and you start throwing away stuff.
Right.
But the reason I bring that up is, you have to be like those old-minded people is to save things, don't just discount your things that you were learning. So I'll give you one example is when I was learning, when I was in school and I started my college career here in America. When I went to school, I had to do an elective, something arts, don't even remember, but they told me to take the illustrator, It was an illustrator class. I enjoyed it. It was 4 hours every day in summer, and I was drawing stuff and I was making shapes and things. Little did I know that I'm going to use that now, because now as I create my own graphics and create, marketing materials, that skill has come to pass, and it always reminds me of the Apple founder, Michael, what's his name? Michael, not Dell, but the other one, the Apple founder. And, he said, Steve Jobs, not Michael, Steve Jobs, what he said was, all the classes that I have taken have come to pass because I can create a product that's unlike another, So you remind me of that because that's a skill we have to take. And then sometimes we may not use it right away, but sometimes we have to. But over the years, I went to school 20 years, almost 10, 15 years ago. But when took that class, now I have to come back, and then I know what's right, what's not right, how things are working. I mean, we have software now that we can make things very easy, but when we are creating our own things, that's
Mhm.
it comes to pass. That's just wanted to share that.
Yeah, and I've certainly experienced that very same thing.
So let me ask you something else. So your company is committed to growth-minded individuals, and they're transforming. You want to transform lives by expanding their thinking and their confidence. How are you doing that now, and how are you doing it?
Yeah, so before I state that, so one of the areas or the niches that I'm drawn to is women and older women, and the reason for that is because one, they are I fit that category, and in talking with that group of women, one of the things that I was starting to hear consistently was women who were approaching later years in life, not old, but just later years in life, and were very confused and a bit concerned about what they would do in retirement, what they would do as they were no longer had children that were at home, and just feeling like they really didn't have a purpose in life, feeling as if it was really too late. And so that really is a group that I was drawn to. And so basically, one of the things that I have been doing with that group of women is helping them to pretty much rediscover themselves and to really take time to slow down, to take time to really think and become reacquainted with themselves, basically, open up their awareness. Sometimes to even go back and to dream about those things that at one point they wished that they could do, but due to the daily activities of life, they've gotten so overwhelmed with what's presently going on in life that they've forgotten about some of those hopes and dreams. So part of what takes place is helping women to reevaluate, reassess, to remember some of the goals, some of their desires, and to pretty much figure out how they can reconnect themselves with those desires and move forward to accomplish them.
So are they going to go into business, or are they just finding themselves and doing something, just to pass time?
Yeah, so some of them have a desire to be entrepreneurs. Some have a desire to maybe do some work in ministry or work in the community. So that piece of it, from my perspective, really doesn't matter. It's more about helping them to rediscover who they are and recognize that just because they're older, just because their life has taken a certain pattern, doesn't mean that that has to dictate the balance of their life. That whatever the goal is that they would like to achieve, that they can achieve it. So it really is about helping them to transform their mindset, as well as helping them to continue to grow themselves. As you know, 'cause I know you're in the personal development space as well. And so many people often feel as if, I graduated college, I'm done with learning. And so helping my clients to understand that learning really is lifelong. It does not have to necessarily be learning from a formal perspective such as college, but learning is continual. And so you're helping them to rediscover their desire, their interest in learning, and then helping them to develop the confidence to know that whatever it is they'd like to do with the balance of their life, that they certainly can do that. That again, it's really not too late. And that's really the message, that age doesn't define what we can or cannot do. It's not too late. You're breathing, it's not too late.
You bring a good point, because many of the times, I've met people who don't want to go to school because they think it's too hard. They don't want to transition because they hate where they are at in life, but they don't want to become uncomfortable in moving out.
Right.
All of those things are taking place, and then there are some people who just don't want to read another book. they will not pick up a book. And sometimes when you ask people, what is the one book you've read? They're like, I haven't read any book. The last book I read was a bedtime story to my child, and so
Right.
it's a growth process. It's a growing process. And we have to understand, I mean, there's a lot of people out there who don't realize that growth, like you said, is an ongoing process. But
Mm-hmm.
we need to have them understand that all they have to do is, do one thing. Just read a quote, understand a quote, Google something on your phone. Everybody has a phone. Just Google something and read something nice, or watch a YouTube video,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and something that will elevate you from where you are at,
Exactly.
Well, this is awesome. So why confidence? Why did you pick confidence?
Like I said, I was constantly hearing that message. I don't know that what I can do. I'm getting older. I'm too old. I don't think I have the skills. It's been so long. I don't know that I have time to learn another skill. And so I was hearing so much fear from the ladies that I was talking to. And so one way to conquer fear is to help people develop a greater level of self-confidence.
You bring a good point, because when I teach about the niche navigator, I talk about clarity.
Mm-hmm.
It's a word that I created. It says clarity, because if you're not clear, then fear will dominate you.
Yes.
But once you're clear, then the fear is going to then it's going to be eliminated from your body or from your head, and then confidence is going to take over.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to create a cartoon that says that. I haven't found a good cartoonist, but it's clear, because I know that once you're not clear, and, you and I are influencers, and we are in that coaching space where we are training people to think differently. But when we are clear, when we know something, it becomes, I feel like, in our mind, it's like the Red Sea that parted for Moses. When you're clear,
Right.
that's what happens, right? Because
Right.
the path is, it's right there in front of you, but until you are clear that the Red Sea doesn't part. I don't know why that came to mind, but that's but that's what it is, right? Clarity is the big thing. And
It is.
so, and I'm so glad. Are you just working with older women, or do you work with men too?
Right now, it's primarily women, and like I said, you generally that 45 plus group, more into the 50s and older. I've also been doing some work with small businesses. In fact, in a couple of days, I actually partnered with one of the local cities in my area to do some training with entrepreneurs and small business owners to help them to understand the importance of influence, the importance of connecting with their clients in order to help them to see increased profits and revenue.
That's awesome. I love the fact that you're out there. I love the fact that, you're finishing up your corporate career, but you're already thinking outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
You're already thinking that how you can impact these women's lives. And, God knows we need it, right?
Right.
Because we have always, as women, we've always thought small. We've always been the nurturers, but we've never nurtured ourselves, right?
Right.
So it's time.
We're still in that area.
Yes, we do. And so you bringing that space out, you're bringing people into that space, you're thinking, let me do this, is an awesome thing. I really am very glad that we had this conversation, because there's people out there who needs to hear this.
Thank you.
Well, again, for those people, I know you could be watching anything today, but thank you so much for tuning in and being on my show, Cheryl. And for other people who are watching, thank you for being here. Cheryl is going to put her link to her website below, after this video airs, so you can connect with her. It's not who you want to it's not what you want to do in life sometimes. Sometimes also you need a boosting hand, and you need a little gentle push. And we as influencers and coaches, we do the same thing for them. So find out who can help you and just take that first step, because I understand there's fear. We were all fearful. I don't know if you were, but I was. But as I stepped outside the box a little bit at a time, it became much more clearer that I have to do this all the time. And life, I believe, this is my depiction, is that we are programmed, if you will, to go from one box to another, and unless you jump boxes, you cannot come to your full potential. But life is in a box, right? Somebody gave me this example. He goes, you are a kid in a box and you're going to die in a box, but all life is going to be in a box. You just have to figure out which box is going to be the next one. So step out of it. Don't stay in the same box, right? And so for those people who are listening, please share, like, and subscribe to this video, because this message needs to be heard. And one of the things that I really like Cheryl is doing is that she is thinking, she's finishing up one career and she's transitioning why in that career into another one, because she's reinventing herself now as a coach, as a, growth-minded specialist, somebody who is going to boost confidence in other people. You may be in that same boat, looking, maybe you don't like your job. Maybe you're not happy with your job because of certain people. I don't know. Whatever it is, and if you are not happy, then use that job to make the transition to your next step. You don't have to just quit right away, but you have to make the transition. Well, thank you again, Cheryl. There's a lot of good messages in here. So for those people who are listening, take what it's worth, because it's a grain of salt that makes a difference, right?
Right.
Thank you, everybody. Over and out.
All right, great. Munira, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking with you today.
You are welcome. I will talk to you soon. Over.
All right. Okay, bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Munira's Musings with your host, Munira Zahabi. If you enjoyed our show, please share and subscribe to this channel. And for more content, please join our Facebook group called Navigate to Your Niche.